Welcome back to Formula One Bet. My name is Noah Mosley, and thank you so much for watching. And in this video, we will be recapping the Australian Grand Prix. There was a lot of action that happened and a lot to unfold, so let's go ahead and let's get into it. Alrighty, we have to start with the big news coming out of the weekend. Max Verstappen DNFing within the first couple of laps of the race. Now, this was pretty big news, and honestly, I hate to sound like this, but, you know, it doesn't make me feel good to see, anybody drop out of the race due to reliability problems, per se, but it was pretty exciting to see Max, drop out, just because he has controlled a lot of the sport here in the past couple of years, himself and Red Bull, and in fact we didn't see the last reliability issue with Max since a couple of years ago at the same exact race. And so I would say it definitely sparked a lot of reactions out of the crowd there in Australia. And going into the race weekend, I had this gut feeling that Max was going to have some type of trouble with his car. And so, unfortunately, we didn't see it in the qualifying session, but as the race, started, we saw Carlos overtake him, and I thought that was a little, out of the ordinary for Max to kind of just let him pass the way he did. And come to find out, when watching the onboard, we saw that, he had that rear brake failure that caused him to obviously not finish the race and go out within the first couple of laps. So definitely big news, and I wonder if this is sparking some interest in the championship fight now that Ferrari seem to have their act. Jumping into some other big news coming out of the race is the retirement of Lewis Hamilton due to reliability, and then also the trouble that Mercedes is continually having. So I really thought that this race was going to be the race that they picked up off of, and they were going to make their claim back towards the front of the grid. Unfortunately, we did not see that at all. In fact, Lewis even came out and said that at the end of the second practice session, I believe, it was the worst that the car has ever felt. And I thought that spoke a lot of volumes to the situation with Lewis at Mercedes. I think he was reviewing all of the numbers that the simulators were providing them about their car over the winter, and I think that had led to his decision of leaving Mercedes for Ferrari, because I think he knew that the Mercedes car was not going to be back to where it was, back in 2020, 2021, so on and so forth. And so I think that this contributed to Lewis leaving Mercedes, and also, seeing George completely wreck on the last lap. It was just deja vu all over again to Singapore of last year. And, watching the onboard of Fernando Alonso, I definitely think that there was some suspicious play with that move, just because the lap before, he takes that corner full throttle, and right before the corner where George crashed, on the lap that George did crash, we saw him lift up off the throttle. So, not saying that, it was intentional, but, definitely some suspicious play there. Another big controversy coming out of the weekend that I feel like I have to talk about was Logan Sargent losing his car due to Alex Albon crashing his own car at the start of the weekend in free practice 1. And I just don't necessarily agree with the decision that Williams made. Now, will I say that they put the right driver in the car? Yes, but ultimately it comes down to management, and ultimately it's their own fault for not bringing a spare chassis to the race weekend. I just don't know how you do that in modern day Formula One, and I understand that cost can be very expensive, especially for those type of race cars and all of the parts that go into it, but I just don't see how that happens. And especially to force another driver out of their seat for the entire weekend and also expect them to put up results throughout the entire year for the team. I feel like you're just putting Logan at a disadvantage, and you're also draining the confidence out of him, showing that, hey, the team doesn't necessarily believe that you can score points in your own car, we're going to give Alex your car and hope for the best. I just don't agree with that decision. And as for James Vowles, I think he did make the right decision by coming out, being honest with everybody, and just letting us know why the decision was being made. That was one of the decisions I agreed with James Vowles, but you got to figure out some way to bring a spare chassis. You can't have a situation like this happen again, no matter if you're in Brazil, no matter if you're in Japan, Australia, it doesn't matter. You got to have spare parts for your cars, because you should go into the weekend expecting your car is not going to come out. Who I went ahead and put my bet on to secure pole position for the Australian Grand Prix was Oscar Piastri. And unfortunately, it did not hit, and I really wasn't expecting this one to hit, but, I felt like I had to go with this bet just because, one, he's a hometown kid, and he has put up a very strong qualifying performance here in the first couple of races, so, I really thought, hey, the sky's the limit for him. And then also, I wasn't really shocked to see that Max Verstappen put it up there right on pole. But, I felt like this bet was, worth just taking a shot in the dark on. However, it did not hit, but I was overall impressed and proud of Oscar's qualifying performance here at his home Grand Prix. And who I went ahead and put my bet on to win the Australian Grand Prix is Carlos Sainz. Like I said in my preview videos, I had a feeling that Max was going to have some issues going into the race, and we saw that, coming out of the first couple of laps. And honestly, the performance of Carlos was extremely impressive. For him to come, into qualifying, put it on P2, get on the front row, and then also, start the race out like he did with Max, and, being able to overtake him before, Max had those failures with his rear brakes. And I thought that Carlos coming out of appendicitis surgery and being able to be at one with the car is extremely impressive. And it's also cruel at the same time that he does not have a seat for next year. And when you look at the statistics, the only person in the past couple of years to beat Max outright in a Grand Prix is, one, his teammate that is in the same exact car that Max is in, and then also Carlos Sainz in a Ferrari. Now, we're not talking about sprint races, Oscar Piastri, but, with that being said, Carlos is one of the best drivers on the grid, and I just don't understand how there isn't a seat for him next year. And I really think if I'm Carlos, I'm not taking a seat at Stake F1 next year or in the coming years until Audi gets in there and really develops the team, because with looking at their performance, at least in these past couple of Grand Prix, they are struggling to even contain a 5-second pit stop, when a normal pit stop should be anywhere from like 2.5 seconds to 3.5 seconds. And, they're on the range of 10 seconds, 20 seconds to just even screw on a wheel nut. And so, I just don't think that would be the best decision for Carlos. I really hope the likes of Mercedes, potentially Red Bull, his performance that he's giving, and, potentially could challenge Max Verstappen for the World Drivers' Championship in the coming years. But he needs to have a car that is capable of doing that. And I think if he goes to Stake F1, it just won't happen for him. But with that being said, overall, I was extremely excited to see that the bet did hit. And, it always feels good when you can predict something like this from happening. And it was definitely a great sign to see Carlos control the race and take top step on the podium. Even though, I'm not a Ferrari fan, I always like to see Ferrari do well. And so... And also put in another small side bet that Lando Norris was going to stay within the top 4. And that also hit, due to Max Verstappen's DNF. And, I think that Lando had a very solid performance as well, and I kind of knew that he was going to hang up towards the top of the grid there, so was able to cash in on both of those bets coming out of the weekend, so overall, a pretty satisfying Australian Grand Prix. Alrighty, guys, and that's all I have for you today. I know there's probably a lot of controversy and information that I didn't talk about in this video, but I just wanted it to be a quick little recap video, just going over some of the main talking points throughout the weekend. If there's any topics that you guys would like me to discuss, I'd be happy to review those in the comments down below. But as always, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so, please like and subscribe. Looking ahead, we have the Japanese Grand Prix coming up next weekend, so keep an eye out for the preview odds video coming around Wednesday or Thursday. But with that being said, thank you guys, and as always, happy racing.